What is going on, my friends? Mike Walker here. We're going to be diving into a topic that I know for a fact that you have struggled with in your life. How can I say that so confidently? Because you are human. Yes, my friends, you are human. And that means that you have dealt with what the topic of today is, which is imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome does not, no one escapes imposter syndrome. And the whole concept of today's episode is to not only define what it is, but how do we embrace its impact and its force in our lives, because you're not going to escape it. It is going to be something that you are absolutely going to face in your life. In fact, the more you strive, the more successful you become, the more you will face it. Isn't that ironic that as you become more successful, as you get up the ladder in terms of your skills and accomplishments in life and in business, you will actually face the force of imposter syndrome more. Why is that? Because we don't escape it. It is something that is a constant defining force. It's a defining element of the human experience, but that doesn't mean that it has to impact our efficacy in what we do, but it does mean that we have to be able to navigate through it and understand what it is the first step in doing that. And so I'm going to be pulling back the curtain on a training that I did for our clients a while back on this exact topic. It hit home in a big way. It's probably one of the more impactful trainings I have done with clients, so much so that I got a lot of feedback, a lot of positive notes and thank yous and things in the back of that came later, just because of, it touched people where they were. And why is that? Because they're human, just like I said, and they are human, just like you're human. And I wanted to share this insights with you. I want you to benefit from the insights that we uncovered during this episode. So jump into this one. I know you're going to like it. And I even share a story, an embarrassing story of that, about of me growing up that I want to share with you today. And so I'm wearing, if you're watching me on video, you will see that I am sporting a Superman shirt. If you're only listening to me, well, then you don't get to see it. But I'm rocking a Superman shirt, and you'll know why and the reference to that as you dive into this episode. So enjoy. I know you'll get a lot out of this one, and share this one, my friends, because there are people in your lives that really, really need to hear this. I hope you need to hear it, but I'm willing to bet that you have people in your network, in your life, that could use this even more. So sharing is caring, my friends. Give this one a like, subscribe, do all the things, but more importantly, get this into the hands of somebody that it could truly change their lives and impact them in a positive way. Okay. All right, guys, let's jump in. I'm going to get the editor to cut us into the episode and the training that I did with our clients. Enjoy. God bless. And we'll see you on another episode.
Topic for today: unmasking authenticity, navigating self-doubt and imposter syndrome. All right. It's going to be kind of like a 3-part thing here. Part 1, we're just going to define and identify, because you can't slay a dragon you can't see, right? We have to know what is it that we're facing specifically so we can address it clearly in our lives. Part 2 is moving from understanding to empowering. Once we understand it, we know what it is, that's great. But then how do we actually use that effectively and use it as a fuel rather, instead of something that's going to distinguish, or rather like extinguish, I should say, our abilities in the marketplace, in our lives in general, et cetera, et cetera. And then part 3, living into your unique purpose, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'd venture to guess that most people here have probably heard that type of phrase, you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. But we're actually going to talk about what that specifically looks like and feels like. So that's how we're going to end. In fact, I'm even going to share an embarrassing story from my past. Luke, I didn't tell you this, I know, but I'm going to share a little something from my past growing up. And it is what it is. I don't care. I'm going to share it anyway. It's going to be kind of funny. You guys can laugh at my own expense. All right, let's get into it. All right. Part 1, define and identify. You can't slay a dragon you can't see. So let's just define imposter syndrome. We already know what self-doubt is. Everybody's like going to be pretty clear. Yeah, I get that one. That's pretty straightforward. But imposter syndrome specifically, right, is the condition of feeling anxious and not experiencing success internally, usually despite being high performance in external and objective ways. So you're performing at a high level externally and in objective ways. You have measurable things to suggest the fact that you are, successful or striving forward, moving forward, et cetera. But internally, you do not feel this way. And this condition often results in people feeling like a fraud, a phony, doubting their abilities. And there's some signals here I wrote down. I want us to just make sure that we're all, kind of singing the same tune here together. And let me know if any of these resonate with you guys. All right. So signals that you know, okay, this is probably somewhere in that field of imposter syndrome. It's not to say that they're bad per se, but you just need to be aware of them. Self-doubt. We already talked about that. Constantly questioning your abilities, skills, or knowledge, even in the areas where you have proven expertise. Pretty straightforward. Overachievement or perfectionism. Interesting. All right. I can definitely put a checkbox next to that one. Setting excessive high standards for yourself and feeling a constant need to excel or achieve perfection, despite accomplishments, feeling like it's never enough. And that's the big one. It's okay to strive for more and try to do your best. That's pretty straightforward. But when you feel like it's never enough and you can never celebrate the wins along the way, why? That's the big question. I want you to underscore that one. Why? Why can't I? Right? Because it's not just about, well, because there's more to do. Sure, there is, but why can't you celebrate where you're at right now? Fear of failure, an intense fear of making mistakes, being exposed as incompetent, or being found out, quote unquote, as not deserving your position or achievements. This is a big one, especially when you start moving up in the ranks in either a corporate sector or you're up on stage and you're talking to people and you just feel like, man, I wonder if people actually know what I feel like right now, right? It's a big one for sure. Fear of failure. Next one, discounting achievements. We already kind of touched on this, but downplaying or dismissing personal achievements, attributing them to external factors like luck or timing rather than acknowledging your own capabilities, right? So, oh, well, that I just got lucky on that one, and just kind of discounting everything is like, I didn't have anything to do with that. Well, you're living and you're breathing and it happened to you. So you must have something to do with it, right? Comparing yourself to others. This is a big one, especially for those of you who spend a lot of time online, scrolling the news feeds, looking at everybody's photos and images and whatnot. This can be extremely impactful in the way that you set your paradigm. Comparing yourself to others, frequently comparing yourself to others and feeling inferior or inadequate in comparison, even when evidence suggests otherwise. Another component is just simply forgetting that they're in a different chapter with a completely different set of, variables, right? So looking at things as like apples for apples or oranges to oranges. And yet the reality is you guys grew up in completely different continents. The comparison is not direct, even when it kind of seems like it. Difficulty accepting praise. You'll see this a lot. And I always like to, you can take it as kind of being, there's being humble. But if you scratch the surface a little bit, you start kind of questioning, well, why are they like that? How come they can't accept praise, right? Difficulty accepting praise, feeling uncomfortable or deflecting praise, and believing that any positive feedback or recognition received is not genuine. So there's two parts here. There's deflecting it, like, oh, thank you. No, it's fine. And just kind of like, no, it's not a big deal, right? Well, where'd that come from? How come you can't just be like, yes, thank you. I know I worked really hard for that one, and just accept it, own it, right? And then the other part of this is questioning whether the feedback is even genuine. That's kind of an interesting one too. It's like, well, why'd they say that? What do they really mean? Or they're just trying to make me feel good, but they don't actually mean it, right? These are all the things looping in your head. Luke, have you ever kind of felt that way where like someone gives you a compliment and you're just like, oh, they don't really mean that. They're just like trying to build me up. Like, where did that storyline come from? And no one else is saying it. It's you saying it to you. That's the weird part. That's where we get going down this rabbit hole. It's pretty interesting stuff. Overworking or over preparing. Guilty for sure. Putting excessive effort into tasks or projects, constantly striving to prove yourself and fearing that others will discover your perceived shortcomings. Now, again, putting in a lot of effort, trying hard, wanting to do your best. Is that wrong? Absolutely not. But the underlying why, right? You could almost put like a big why under every single one of these. And I would suggest that we'll recap and I will make sure that you hit all these. And then just later today or while you're driving or running or doing your thing, whatever, just simply hit each of these and go, okay, I've felt that before. Excellent. Why? Just identify it. You can't slay a dragon you can't see. If you can see it, then you go, okay, now I know why. And then going forward, you won't deal with it so much. High anxiety or stress, experiencing persistent anxiety, stress, or a constant feeling of being overwhelmed due to the fear of being exposed as a fraud. Okay. And then last two here, feeling like an outsider, believing that you don't belong in your professional or social circles, feeling like you are an imposter in certain environments and that others will discover that you don't fit in. I know I've been in situations where I'm looking around the room going like, wow, these people have, definitely one-upped me in most categories of life, whether it be finance, success, their ability to articulate these really complex thoughts, right? Hey, you know what? Here's one to like flip your paradigm on this one is like, you want to be that person in that room, right? You want to assimilate success through assimilation. And so you want to be in those rooms where you feel like, wow, yeah, this is uncomfortable. Remember what we talked about, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And then lastly, minimizing accomplishments. We kind of touched on this already. Minimizing your achievements, attributing them to luck, easy circumstance, or believing that anyone could have accomplished what you did. And that's a big one. Like you have this is something to really question inside yourself is, oh, well, anyone could have done that. No, that's not true. You did that. You were able to do it. Not everybody could. All right. So self-doubt, overachievement or perfectionism, fear of failure, discounting achievements, comparing yourself to others, difficulty accepting praise, overworking or over preparing, high anxiety or stress, feeling like an outsider, and minimizing accomplishments are all signals of navigating the self-doubt and imposter syndrome situation, right? Now, again, these are all things that we all have. I'm going to put my hand up. I've for sure touched on every single one of these at some point in my life, for sure. That's just par for course. It's what we do. All right. So now that we know what it is, let's go from understanding to empowering, right? So part 2, moving from understanding to empowering and why this is important. Here's my personal belief. There's lots of different reasons why this would be important, obviously, but this is the first one that came to mind as I was writing notes here for this call. Because self-doubt has killed more dreams than failure ever has. Self-doubt has killed more dreams than failure ever has. Imagine how many amazing songs, plays, stories, and inventions there would be in this world today if people hadn't doubted their abilities. You could very comfortably say that humanity as a whole would be a richer and wiser and more advanced had all the people in the past pushed through this emotion. Imagine how much better off we would be if all these unknown people, all these unknown scenarios, and people said, I feel this way, but I'm going to do this instead. Separating emotion from motion, right? And just going, yes, I feel like that, but I'm going to act like that. They're two totally different things. And that's something I really want you guys to embrace is the reality that it's okay to feel a certain way, but that doesn't mean you have to do a certain way. You can actually do the polar opposite of what you feel. And imagine where we would be in human history if that had been held true for eons, decades, tens of thousands of years. I don't know. Maybe we'd be already on Mars, probably. I don't know. Probably. All right. Don't confuse wishes with dreams. This is another one, though. A lot of people, oh, I wish this, I wish that. Oh, that'd be so nice. You cannot confuse wishes with dreams. They are not the same thing. All right. Dreams are deeply embedded, visually empowered thoughts that vibrate differently, usually very consistent and regardless of external pressure or circumstances. They are woven into your DNA and they are signals pointing towards your calling. All right. So dreams, when we say dreams, that's a very overly used term. I understand. So I kind of want to put a little more emphasis. I want to put some more context onto when we're talking about dreams here in terms of alignment with your purpose and not feeling like you're an imposter or just trying to be someone else that you just saw on Instagram because it looked good. Your personal dreams are deeply embedded, visually empowered thoughts that vibrate differently. And they are usually very consistent, regardless of what's going on in your life. All right. Wishes and desires are like fleeting flashes in the pan, and they usually are brought up by external influences. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're bad, but they just usually aren't as tightly bound to our personal identity and tend to lack the same power. And that's why it's really, when you're trying to come up with your purpose and escape from and navigate through self-doubt and imposter syndrome, you're like, well, how do I do that? By understanding your purpose, right? And knowing why you're here. Why are you uniquely skilled in certain ways, and your entire life, existence up to this point, your entire experience up to this point has brought you to where you are today, and that makes you an extremely valuable resource in this world. But you have to understand and embrace that, and then let that align with your purpose, right? And that's kind of the direction we're going to go here. Now, I will say, most people will be like, yeah, I want to have a purpose. That's my mission. I want to make a big impact in this world. Definitely, been there, done that, seen a lot of that, right? But here's the thing. A lot of people think they have a mission in life, but it's really just their ego. Let me say that one more time. A lot of people think they have a mission in life, but it's really just their ego, because it's not easy to tell the difference sometimes if you aren't aware of the concept. And the best way to know for sure is to look below the intention and figure out whether the mission and objectives surrounding it are more important than the means and how they are completed. This is a big one, guys. Do you have a mission, or you just have an ego-driven idea of purpose? All right. The way to know is the intent, to figure out, well, is the mission, the end result, do I care if I'm the one that gets it done, or am I more focused on the actual mission that gets done? See, some people want the fame and accolades that come with accomplishing something. And then you have to uncover why. Was it to accomplish that thing, or was it to get the fame and recognition for doing that thing? Very different drivers. Very, very different drivers. Always be conscious about whether your pursuits are mission driven or ego driven. They can feel similar, but the underlying intent will produce dramatically different outcomes. And this is why you see some people that strive and strive and strive, and then finally do something, and they're just so happy that they got it done because the thing got done. They could care less about being famous. They just wanted the thing done, right? They believe they had a mission. Others strive and strive and strive. It gets done. And it's all like, yes, see, look what I did. Here's my Lambo to prove it. Here's the plaque on my back, behind me showing that I'm famous, whatever. Right. So you just have to be really conscious of the distinction between the mission and the ego. And here's the thing. Sometimes God will bring people and circumstances into your life that are designed to help reach the end objectives, but not in the way you expected, or in ways that mean you might not even get the credit for it. Bam. That's a big one. Absolutely, Luke. Comment on that, man.
Well, I think you just kind of hit the nail on the head with this point. Like, I think for all of us who are highly motivated, impact-driven entrepreneurs and leaders, this is a telltale sign on if our mission is in line with our purpose and our calling, with who we are designed to be. If our mission can be accomplished by us in only our way, it's probably not big enough. Like, our mission should be so big that, yeah, we're going to need a bunch of other people to accomplish this, who are working even independently of us. It's like, hey, we're going to eradicate illiteracy. That's something that's been kind of on my heart. So if, like, hey, someone else does something and starts eradicating illiteracy without me, and I have no say in it at all, no impact on it, but it's accomplishing the mission, I'm like, heck yes. Like, that should be the telltale sign, like, hey, this is a mission worthy of my calling and purpose. It should be so big that I can't do it myself. And if other people are doing it, I should be cheering them on. So I'll just say, like, hey, take that down and think that through. Like, take that to heart. Is my mission worthy of my calling in this way? That it's that big that I'm cheering other people having success in this as well. So that hit me so hard. I wanted to share that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, for sure. Yeah, it's the big things take a team, for sure. You can do some pretty awesome things on your own, but when you can align your passion, your purpose, your objectives in life and business to the benefit of others, as you've heard it said, service to many leads to greatness, and usually to achieve that greatness requires more than one person too along the way. Awesome. So let's dive into the last piece of part 2 here. Moving from understanding to empowering, right? So we understand it now. Now we're kind of going into empowerment mode. Like, okay, now I can actually articulate this and put it into my life. Here's the thing to really help set the stage for empowerment. And that is to understand that self-doubt is a rite of passage, not a curse. Self-doubt is a rite of passage, not a curse. Accept that this is the tax that must be paid on the way to living out your calling. It's just gonna be. Like, people say, I'm going to get rid of self-doubt. One day I won't ever have self-doubt. You probably always will on some levels to varying degrees, right? And we're going to talk about ways in part 3 here, how to actually make that kind of go away. But right now we just need to embrace it and go from, being disempowered by it to empowered by the knowledge of the fact that, this is just part of the way. This is just what you got to do. I mean, prominent figures, I made a little list here. Maya Angelou, Tom Hanks, Serena Williams, Michelle Obama, et cetera, et cetera. Many, many, many others have spoken specifically and openly about their encounters with self-doubt and feeling like imposters right at the peak of their careers. Can you imagine? Maya Angelou or Tom Hanks or Michelle Obama or Serena Williams at the peak of their careers going like, I feel like an imposter. And yet they're still doing what? They're still on the stage. They're still speaking. They're still making moves. They're still changing lives. How is that possible? Because they separated the feeling to the action. They acknowledged the feeling, but they didn't let that impact the action. Separate the two. Be okay with the feeling. Okay, that's how I feel. Great. Good for you. We all feel, but let's do, right? All right. A large majority of actors and entertainers battle against this regularly because much of their fame is associated with characters that they create for the screen and stage. This is a big one. If you have any friends that are actors or comedians or people that spend time on stage or screen, it's a big one. I've met several over the years, and it's really, really interesting. And that's why they seek out fame to inoculate themselves against self-doubt. So it's kind of like, if I have fame, that's telling me, it's like this constant, I don't know, like a force field for their ego, I suppose. That's like, hey, look, no, see, I'm famous, I'm good. It's validating the feelings that they're lacking. And that's why fame is such a powerful drug. And this emotion doesn't always just go away, but by recognizing it for what it is, it will allow you to push through it easier, like a muscle. The more you do so, the stronger you become. All right. So again, I just really want to emphasize the fact that it's okay to feel this way. You will experience it, accept it, go, oh, yep, Mike said that's the tax. I'm going to feel this way sometimes. Getting up on stage for the first time, or you're onboarding some new clients, or whatever, you're about to launch a new business and you just don't feel like you're the person. That doesn't mean that you can't act as though you are, right? Eventually the action will catch up and the feeling will catch up, and all of a sudden you actually start feeling pretty in alignment. All right. So let's move into part 3 here. Pushing past the motion and just take action. You are designed for greatness, but don't be confused. Greatness is an action, not a feeling. You won't always feel strong, capable, or worthy, but that doesn't mean you can't act upon your calling. All right. That is true greatness. True greatness is feeling one way, but then doing the action the other way. That's being great. All right. Cool. All right. Now, part 3, living into your purpose, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Now, I questioned whether I was going to share this, but whatever. Like, it's just a funny little story, but it kind of gets into the whole realm here of being uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. All right. So when I was a little kid, I'm 44 now. And so this is a minute ago. Okay. So I was about 4 years old. And I don't know about you, Luke, but like, to me back in the day, man, Superman, that was it. That was like, Superman is the man, right? And nothing could stop him. He could fly. He had superpowers, the suit, the cape, the whole thing. And to the point that I actually had a Superman outfit. All right. And it was really cool. It was like, it had the blue full, the pants, the shirt, big S on the chest, and it had these little Velcro tabs on the shoulders, and it came with this red cape, and I could like put the cape on, right? And then like Velcro it on. And I was like just running around the house and doing my thing or whatever, right? Feeling very, very super of myself, feeling like I could take on the world, right? Well, when you watch Superman long enough, you start realizing like, well, no, he can't always be Superman. He has to like pretend he's Clark Kent, right? So I proceeded one day to get ready for school, preschool, by putting on my Superman outfit, but then putting on the clothes that my mom had laid out for me the night before on top of the outfit. So as you can imagine, I have my Superman outfit on, and I'm like cramming myself into my corduroy pants and my plaid long sleeve shirt. All right. Button all the way up to the top to hide, my superpowers below, right? Cape, the whole thing. All right. When you're 4, this is an ordeal. It took me a little longer to get ready for school that morning. I'll tell you that. All right. Now here's the irony. It was summer. When you're 4, you don't think about these things, right? All you cared about is being Superman. But I wanted to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, so I did it anyway, right? And this was my calling. I was Superman. I was there to save the day, and I was running around school and in the yard and just doing my thing. And all day I was feeling pretty proud of myself. I distinctly remember sitting there. I could clear as day feel this and see this still. We're sitting on the floor all together in front of the teacher. She's reading stories, and I just remember looking around the room going like, yeah, no one knows that I'm Superman right now. It felt so good. I didn't feel like an imposter. I had zero self-doubt. I was Superman, no one knew. But then, the lunch bell rang and everyone's running around and we're out in the field and yard. And like I said, it was summer and it was hot and I got real hot. Little 4-year-old running around. My face was probably as bright red as the cape that was underneath my suit. Right. And, eventually got to the point where the teacher kind of came up to me and was like, Michael, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, not feeling so super anymore. Apparently she called my mom and my mom came and she put me in the car and started driving me home early. Got out of school early. And she's like, they figured I just was not feeling well, I was sick or something. And then she looked in the rearview mirror and she said, Michael, what's that under your shirt? And I had unbuttoned one of the buttons just because it was hot. And I was just like, kind of tearing at it. And she goes, are you wearing your Superman outfit? And it's, yeah. And she did her thing, started laughing and probably like really laughing, really. But I just remember the entire experience feeling so confident. And so like, yeah, I've got this. I owned it. Right. And I was okay with being uncomfortable, feeling like I had the superpowers. Now, where's the story going? There's no direct connection. I just wanted to share with you a funny story because it came up during Father's Day. But the reality is, though, that I want you to have that confidence, even to the point if it's actually a uniform that you put on underneath your outfit before you go out for the day. I want you to step into your superpower uniform, whatever that looks like. And as funny and as kind of like dorky as maybe that kind of sounds, the reality is that, you could absolutely do that mentally, like step into your uniform, into your Superman uniform or Superwoman uniform. I just wanted you to know that there are ways of like kind of reframing your outlook. Luke says Mike is still Superman. Oh, thanks. No cape today, guys. Just a t-shirt. But I do have a Superman t-shirt. I should have worn it. That would have been bomb if I had worn that day. I could like stand up and show you guys the logo. Man, I wish I had done that. That would have been so good. I'll get that in the re-edit, guys. In the replay, you'll see me wear a Superman shirt. All right, let's move on. I've embarrassed myself enough. All right, so here's the thing. I want you to ask, what is the primary differentiator between those that struggle with imposter syndrome and those that don't? There's a real question. I want some engagement here. What is the primary differentiator between those that struggle with imposter syndrome and those that don't? Self-confidence. All right. Confidence. That's the differentiator, right? The differentiator between those that struggle with imposter syndrome and those that don't. I didn't say those that don't feel it. I said those that struggle with it. What's the difference? Confidence. And confidence actually derives from the Latin word confidentia, which is from the word con or with, and then fidentia, trust or reliance. So when you combine trust and reliance, you have the confidence, right? So what does that mean? You have to trust yourself to feel confident. You have to trust yourself to feel confident. So how do we trust ourselves, right? That's a big one. Like we could unpack that a little bit. Do you trust yourself? Interesting. Why or why not? You might want to unpack that one. One of the ways to boost self-confidence is to learn the science and probability of you even existing in the first place. This is where we kind of go out into like geek out mode, guys. I'll be honest, because I'm all about, quantum physics and science and all things space related. We won't go there today, I promise. But here's the thing. If you consider all the variables that have come together from the beginning of time, every interaction, every decision made by your ancestor, every minute for thousands and thousands and thousands of years has led you to being right here, right now. And any one of those things being slightly different means you don't even exist. Pretty interesting. I mean, really, like you consider the butterfly effect. There's all kinds of different really cool things you could go down on this road. It's really, really amazing. And Luke, you nailed it. You are a miracle. Like you literally are a walking miracle. All right. So having confidence, self-confidence, trusting yourself, where does that come from? Start with some science. If you just want to step out of like emotional feel-good zone for a little bit, just go to some hard facts and science and start considering the fact that 1 out of 250 million sperm were made you able to be existent with me today, right? Like the chances, that the astronomical chances of you not being here are far greater than you possibly being here today. All right. So just take some science with you and have that at your back a little bit. You are uniquely created with talents and skills, and you are God's highest form of creation. All right. You absolutely have the power to do whatever you want within context of the skills you were given. God will never plant a desire in your heart that you don't have the capacity to bring to fruition. That doesn't mean you, remember, going back to mission, like we said earlier, that doesn't necessarily mean you are the one. But if we separate wishes and hopes to dreams, you will never be given those types of dreams, those deep implanted desires, without the capacity to see those through. But it might not be that you are necessarily the one to do it and get the fame of it. You have to separate the mission from the ego. But if it is a deeply embedded desire, that came from somewhere. And you need to pay attention to those, because a lot of those will not go away. They're like consistently keep showing up in different ways at different times in your mind. It's a really, really important thing to understand. One of the best ways to identify your purpose is to look at ways to leverage those innate skills and talents that you have and give them to the world. That is why they are called gifts. All right. You being here, I know this is kind of counter to a lot of our modern day society that we live in, but you being here is not for your enjoyment and fulfillment. Not completely. It's part of it, but it's not the only reason. And when you can actually take the skills and talents that you have, the interests, the passions, the background, the experience, all these things, combine them together and serve others, like we said earlier, service to many leads to greatness. Another way to look back another way to do this is to look back at the hardest times in your life. What would you do with the pain that you went through? What would you do with the pain that you went through? Don't waste your pain. Use it to help others. Life doesn't happen to you. It happens for you. The fact that you are here with us today, you survived these tumultuous experiences in your past, would suggest the fact that probably someone else has gone through that before too, or will be coming up soon. How much better to use your pain for the benefit of others? There is no testimony without the test. So use your past experiences to help others. All right. So as we wrap, guys, the world doesn't need another Superman or another Superwoman. It needs a super you. You are uniquely set with a range of skills, a range of talents, a range of experiences. And the world just needs a super you, not another Superman or Superwoman.